Yeah, I'm gonna mute both of y'all, Donnie and Robert. Are we live, Ron? Okay, we're good to go, Chair.
Good to go. All right, thank you. This is the Public Works Committee virtual meeting due to COVID-19 pandemic. 1 o'clock Wednesday, May 13th. All members are present along with staff. So we will call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Our first item, Desiree has left us. She's back.
No, I'm here.
All right. First item is approval of meeting minutes from way back on March 5th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I make the motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Desiree, don't believe we had citizen comments for this particular committee meeting today.
Yes, that is correct. We have not received any written comments yet.
Great. So our next item, department report. Donnie, you want to update us first? We've got it in the packet, but
okay. Yeah.
We're hearing some feedback, so maybe, Robert, if you want to.
Hold on. I think they've gone back out, so he can go outside.
The screen was frozen for a moment on my side.
I'll go ahead while Robert's getting set up out there.
okay.
So there's two reports. We'll skip over the garbage and yard debris for March. You can look at it and we'll go over it in April for April. But the thing to consider for the March is the vehicle maintenance. There was pretty high maintenance issues going on in the month of March. We spent about 10 grand, 10.5. That's about 2,500 over budget on an average month. I try to stay with it about 8,500. So that's just a note for you guys. We're going to be very close by the end of the fiscal year. And then you can go to the April. You can see where let's go back to the yard debris and garbage. And it all tells the tale of what's going on. March was very heavy in the garbage. And then, as you can see, we fell off because of the COVID-19 for April. And looking at those same numbers, the same tale, as people were at home, guess what they were doing?
Eating.
So we're
Projects.
on the yard debris. And then if you would go to the, and including the miscellaneous debris at 65 tons, that's very high for this particular point of the year. So that tells you what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's double from March, Donnie, right?
Yeah. Vehicle maintenance, we're at 4,100 for the month. So we're teetering on right at budget at 85,000. I don't foresee any needed repairs, only if we have a breakdown. We got one hydraulic issue on the heavy equipment. It's still running. Sometime this week, I hope to go get that little hydraulic part from Somerville and install that, but it's still operating as we speak. And other than that, I'm gonna be real brief. That's all I have. Robert's gonna go through with his report, but if you have any questions about the basic dashboard, please ask.
Yeah, thank you, Donnie.
Okay.
All right, Robert, you're up, mister.
Okay, so let's just start with drainage. A lot of these projects did carry over from March. Even with everything that was going on, I was still able to get Charleston County out here too. We did some regrading on the drainage ditch on 29th Avenue, which has made a big impact with the last two heavy rainstorms we've had. That has minimal flooding and draining very well right now. We also did a drainage ditch on 30th Avenue with Charleston County and Wills Way. That was a whole system that we've been working on, which is now flowing properly, and then working on now getting the cul-de-sac to drain on Wills Way. Same spot, Wills Way, we had to do some erosion control for one of the drainage ditches that we uncovered. Sand Dollar uncovered 3 drain pipes that were buried there. Also on Live Oak, there was another covered drop inlet in that area, just doing the same thing as previous, just finding some of these systems that have been covered up, opening them up, getting them cleaned, and seems to be working out well. Same with a hot spot on 29th and Hartnett. There was a buried pipe there, managed to get those cleaned out, and now there's no more standing water on that street, which used to be there for quite a bit, at least a day or so afterward, any rain. Hartnett between
Robert,
yes.
I'll stop you right there on the 29th and Hartnett. So as you can remember, and this is just, I was over here at that night of the heavy rain, and the police had barricaded that off, just so you know. Palm was flooded to about 18 inches deep, and the 29th and Hartnett had already drained as the tide was going out. And I told Sergeant Storin, let's open that one back up because it was completely dry. So that system, what Robert did there was very instrumental to that stormwater system right there.
Great.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll just point out that that has been a sore spot for a very long time. So I think the people that live in that nook are going to be or should be ecstatic. I would
great.
guess.
Yeah.
Yes, and the one that we discussed in the past, which was 23rd, between 23rd Hartnett and 24th, which has always been referred to as Lake Hartnett, that we've had, we found that drainage pipe there, and we were gonna have SCDOT come and do a drainage swell. But with what has gone on with COVID-19, I was unable to get them out. So what I just did with staff is kind of went over there, dug a trench, just to see how everything would work there. And with doing that, and also found up on 23rd that there was, I will call it like an asphalt culvert or chute that DOT or county must have put there to divert water to a drop inlet that was in a yard, but actually right away, was completely covered up. It looked like their front yard. So once we uncovered those two, the heavy rainstorm, it never went above the crown of the road in Hartnett. It still filled up, but then it was able to drain out, which it used to stay for in that particular spot for a couple of days. So that still needs to be developed with DOT to open it up even more, to take more volume in. But I think that there's still a little low spot there, but I think that will improve a lot of Hartnett. So kind of excited about that.
Yeah, and appreciate that. I go by it so frequently. Still noticed standing water situation, but really pleased to know that you're still on top of it, and that we may see some more relief with that. So thank you.
Like if that drainage culvert that I kind of just did, it's a very small one right now. If that's opened up even further down Hartnett towards 23rd to pick up more water, I feel like we could, there is a little low spot there. But I think we can get, I'd say 75 to 80% of the water out of there when we do
great.
that.
That's super. Thank you.
So, and then just to what is not on the drainage agenda here is that I added in after was Ocean Boulevard project update. That's where they're replacing the cross pipes on Ocean Boulevard. The county is down there. I spoke to the project manager this morning from Charleston County, and out of, I believe what he said, there were 6 pipes being replaced. There are 3 that are done. They're working on the 4th one today, and then they will have the project complete by next week, and just some minor touch up seeding, raking, but the actual infrastructure project will be done if they don't run into any major problems by next week. So that's moved along.
That's great.
So as far as drainage, that's pretty much it. We've just had some basic facilities maintenance. We've also been dealing with the front beach restrooms, have them up and running. We've been maintaining the Palm Boulevard every 10 days with DPW staff, whereas we would contract out. We may have to switch back over to our contractor just because we're starting to get in anticipation of having to be picking up more debris, more garbage on 4-day schedule. Let's see what else. Just working on the emergency management plan with police department, fire department, and recreation. I've also met with ED services to discuss upcoming drainage cleaning and have moved forward with them with their contract. Just hitting some spots on the island that haven't been done before. And just, yeah, that's about it. Any
Yeah.
questions?
No. Hey, Robert, do you have your report was not in the package? Would you mind just flipping it out to all of us after this meeting?
Sure.
Just so we have it in front of us, that'd be great. But as usual, that is just awesome progress on various places on the island.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the little stuff will add up to, the bigger picture. And then once we outfalls done that, I mean, it's just, going through systematically trying to, uncover a lot of these, that have just kind of been left behind. And then also, the one thing I didn't include is, going, with this COVID-19, our guys have been really on top of, cleaning their trucks, disinfecting. We've had a few, full-time and part-time staff that's kind of taken the lead on that and trying to do our best to keep everybody healthy here. But it's been working out.
That's great.
That's good.
Thank you, Robert.
Good job.
Thank you.
Other questions for Donnie or Robert, folks? Good.
Nope.
All right. Thank you both for a great report. We'll move to old business update on phase 3 drainage projects and small internal projects. Desiree, is that you?
Yes, that would be me. So I'll start with the small internal projects. We received the approval from MS4, that's a stormwater management program from Charleston County for the small internal projects, and also approval from SCDOT because we needed an encroachment permit. All of this work would happen in SCDOT public right of way. So the only coordination left for that project is with the Water and Sewer Commission, and we don't anticipate any issues there. So for the small internal projects, we believe that we will be fully permitted and ready to go out for bid in 1 month, assuming that we don't have any major holdups with water and sewer, which again we're not anticipating. We're giving ourselves roughly a 60-day bidding and contracting period, getting the bids out, getting the RFP out, getting the bids in, reviewing them, and then going through the committee and council process for approval. And so that would take us to the end of July, maybe early August to start construction. They are, ideally we would not do it during the season, but they're small enough that it's not going to impact any beach parking. And our thoughts were to create a very strict construction schedule to not include any weekend work. And I think that would be manageable, it would be fairly easy to manage. And the construction period would be roughly 60 to 90 days, again, depending on the weather and depending on any issues with the contractor. For the large outfall project, which is, we call the phase 3 drainage project, which entails enhancing or creating infrastructure, constructing infrastructure infrastructure, drainage infrastructure on 30th, 36th, and 41st. We should be ready to go out for bid by November if we get the final permits by the fall, late fall, early winter. So we could start construction early next year. And again, we're expecting a larger period for that, maybe 6 to 9 months construction for the outfall project. So if we start early in the year, maybe by end of July, early fall, we could be completed on those, which would be ideal, roughly when we start getting a lot of activity during hurricane season. We did not include any bidding or construction services with the contract that we have with Thomas and Hutton. I believe that we can manage bidding in-house, but we certainly need to have them oversee the project, the construction of the project, to ensure that it's being done according to the design and according to all the permitting. So we'll be getting a proposal for Thomas and Hutton for that work for consideration for City Council, and we'll present it to the committee next month, ideally, for us to include that as part of their scope of services. I think it's very important that we have some expert eyes on a project of that magnitude. That's all we have.
Desiree, say again, who are we still waiting on from a permitting standpoint for phase 3?
The Corps.
Got it. And would you not, or would we want to have Thomas and Hutton not run the bidding, but at least some type of consulting when we get down to a finalist standpoint?
Yes. What we've asked them is a very reduced scope for bidding, for them to help us evaluate the proposals and help us make a recommendation. Some of the admin work of putting the bidding package together, advertising it, that kind of work we could do in-house. So there would be some bidding assistance, bidding help included in that change order that we've asked them for.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
question?
Susan, yes.
There was consensus, I think, at our last budget workshop about including the work on the building up the multi-use path around the 41st outfall in coordination with that project. When could we maybe expect to see that piece of it realized, that part of the project realized?
So in order for them to assess the feasibility of including that to the overall project, there needs to be some work that they need to do some work. Oh, I think we lost Donnie. Ahead of that, we received a proposal a couple of months ago from them to do that work. It was roughly 18,000. We have it in our queue to review that with them this week. Ideally, to make sure that it is inclusive of the vision, I think that council would want to do, as including it as part of the phase 3 drainage project. So if we have that completed by next Tuesday, then maybe we could add that consideration for that scope to be included and approved by council this month, so they could go ahead and get start on the design for that piece.
Okay, super.
So yeah, ideally we would have presented it to this committee, but wasn't quite ready. But it may be by next Tuesday.
Do you have a rough idea if it's included as part of that project? We would be looking at it being finished around the same time as the outfall project, and where, I'm just trying to envision when we might have this nice new section of path to ride and walk on.
I would think that it would be part of the schedule. I don't know if it extends the schedule or if it does, by how much. So we'll have those conversations and hopefully have those answers by Tuesday.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Right.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
Didn't we talk about doing some work on that sidewalk to just kind of soften it up, the cracks and that sort of thing, to at least make it usable?
Yeah.
More usable.
Yeah, we have talked about it, before this whole pandemic thing happened. We had gotten some quotes from, Robert, can you help me? Yes,
T-
for them to come in and grind some of the areas and address some of the, hold on.
Yeah,
No.
so before the pandemic, we were looking at grinding the cracks down by our contractor that also does it at Front Beach for the cement cracks. Once the pandemic kind of hit, everything kind of got put on hold and that kind of fell back burner. I can, definitely get them back out here to explore that possibility. I think that some of the issues may be that, there's going to have to be some roots cut because they've really come to the surface. And then maybe some patchwork, I believe also. In the meantime, I did go down to a certain section of that path with our staff to clean it off and to widen it. So there was a way that they could kind of go around some of the roots. But yeah, it's, and they're marked out in orange now, so those are the trips. But something would need to be done in the interim because obviously, we're probably talking ways out before construction on the rest of that.
Quick question. And we may have to discuss this before, but as far as the roots, if you are breaking those up, that's not going to seriously damage the tree, right? I mean,
No.
there's enough root structure there that it shouldn't be an issue, right?
A lot of those are pines that push them up, and a lot of those are just surface roots. I think the trees have enough that that's really not going to make a difference.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
They really just
Well-
kind of grind those down, don't they? I mean, they don't really cut the root completely.
No, there's some that are pushed up pretty high. I would say at least 3 inches or more. But yes, if they were to just, if it's just pushing the asphalt from underneath, then they grind, smooth it out without actually compromising the root system at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Rob.
And just to add, related to the phase 3 drainage project, the third draft of the budget that's going to be presented next Tuesday at Ways and Means will include the updated number for that project, assuming that the Waterway Boulevard it's included as part of the overall scope. So, we won't know, we're using estimates at this point of roughly $200,000, but after Thomas and Hutton completes their analysis, we will have more updated numbers for that portion. We think that because it's going to be added as part of the overall project, that there may be some savings involved, but we won't know until that work is completed.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Desiree and the team. Next, update on the IOP connector and sidewalk extension projects. That Robert, Desiree?
Either or. We're kind of same thing with that as in a hold pattern. We were all ready to go forward with landscaping, to finish the project off. But just like everything else with the pandemic, it kind of got put on hold. Obviously, we would like to get that going again. We would just have to see where the budget and everything takes us.
Yeah, we had some money set aside from hospitality and accommodation tax revenue. So we put it on hold until we felt like we had a good handle on the situation when it came to tourism revenues. We have some funds available in the tree fund that we could use. So we had a beautiful plan for landscaping that area. We might phase that out just to, I guess due to the impact that this pandemic is having on our revenue sources that we're going to use. We, one of the things that Robert and I have been talking is what can we do to phase it in and maybe start softening the look a little bit slowly. So we'll start by maybe sodding and doing some minimal plantings just to make it look a lot better than what it's looking like. But overall, the sidewalk extension project was completed with no problem. It looks great. It serves a purpose. A lot of people are using it. It's just, it's the cherry on top, it's what's missing. And we're trying to find the, a reasonable and common sense approach to completing that project in a nice way.
Desiree, nobody notices the cherry, so that's a good thing, right? Kidding. Yeah. Totally kidding. And then Desiree, item C, have we kind of hit everything between Robert's report and item A, or is there something else on the ongoing drainage projects, assessments and such?
No,
Yeah.
Robert pretty much covered everything under his report, so we don't have anything else to report on that.
Very good, thank you. Robert, you're a giver, man. That's what you are.
Well, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions on old business, Susan or Rusty?
No, I don't have any.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Then we'll move to new business. First item is consideration of an RFP for citywide landscaping services.
So currently we have a contract with the Greenery. About 3 years ago, we issued an RFP, went through the whole process and entered into a contract with them. And earlier this month, we received a letter from the Greenery expressing that they do not have an interest in renewing the contract for another year under the same rate. I think that, they're getting, their costs are rising and they would like for the city to reconsider that, which put us in the RFP process again. If we would be putting out an RFP and they would be more than welcome to submitting a revised proposal. The current contract expires June 30th. So we want to move on this pretty quickly. And we'll be our goal is to, have it finalized by the end of this week and have it out for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks to get proposals and, make a recommendation to city council to enter into that contract. So you have a copy of the old RFP and the old scope of services. Robert has been reviewing that to make sure that it's consistent with our expectations and our need currently. We've been using pretty much the same scope for quite some time. So we want to have an opportunity to reevaluate if anything needs to be changed or added or taken out. So we'll be working on that, and we should be getting, by early June, we would have some proposals to consider and then move forward with a contractor.
And how does that particular contractor list get built, Desiree?
We advertise it in the paper. We also typically put out a inquiry in managers listserv that goes through all the municipalities, and we get contact information from folks that offer those services to other places. It's interesting. We always have a good response from companies wanting to do landscaping services, and they're Robert, I think, knows some, and we'll call others that maybe we know that are good, and we'll encourage them to submit a proposal.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious more than anything. Thank you. That's great. Rusty, Susan, any question? Oh, Donnie?
I want to be clear from a public works perspective, both Robert and I, we've been very disappointed within the last 1.5 to 2 years of the Greenery, just for your information. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting. Because has their current contract been multiple years, I'm guessing? Desiree, did you say?
It was a 3-year with automatic.
Got it.
Yeah, it was a 3-year with automatic renewal every year, as long as either party expressed desire to renew. So they don't want to renew. So we
and we may not either.
Or did we?
Yeah, it works both ways. Rusty,
Maybe,
question?
mutual.
Yeah. I was just going to ask Donnie to elaborate on that a little bit about the disappointment. I didn't.
Well, originally they started out, they were very personal, but they knew the heat was on. As time went on, it was the mow, blow and go type landscaper, and you didn't get the service that I required, Robert required, and it's been a struggle to get them to fulfill their obligations on a routine basis. We have to stay behind them. consistently, especially with the parking lots and things like that. It's been very disappointing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's-
Mow, blow and go. I like that.
No, you don't. Yeah, you don't want that, man.
Yeah.
Susan?
Quick question following up on the what we were talking about, the RFP. Is that something that you all would consider or possibly put on the city's social media? Just because it might help make some of our contractors who live on the island more aware, and you know, that possibility is out there. Might make it easier for them, you know, if they live close by, to fulfill the responsibilities.
Mhm. Yeah, we typically, whenever we update the request for proposals or bids page on the website, we typically put it out on Facebook.
Cool.
Yeah, and something like this, I would anticipate it would garner some interest.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I would think. Great. Great. Thank you for the update. Last item under new business, I had asked Desiree to put this on the agenda. And since we're live and on record, let me just go on record. I have no agenda with this topic. I just want to, coming off of our budget workshop 3, you know, we threw a lot of things on the table or on the wall to look at, to try and do things different, maybe more efficient, maybe cost savings, maybe not. But until we look at the data and until we look at, you know, some information, you know, we're not going to know that. And Donnie and Robert, I know this is not a new idea with me by any stretch. I'm sure y'all have seen other councils come and go that have looked at this or other pieces, and this may just be an education for me, which is, sorry if it's that kind of a waste of time. But you know, Donnie, I'd love to hear your viewpoint. I'm assuming all we would want to do right now is just household garbage, to take a look at that as opposed to anything else that we would want. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, well, household garbage, that's part of the historical what they've done. Of course, we can you can contract it out if that's the will of council. Even with the same times of service, 2 times per week in the 11 weeks out of the year. But the question becomes, do you want the same service of yard debris that you have now? And do you want the same service of the miscellaneous debris that you have now? And that will help determine what equipment you would need, if there is potential savings. But not only, so I only have CDL drivers, but that's not indicative of what they do on the island, because we do pumping, a lot of rights of way type stuff. Although their job title is CDL driver, that's not all of what they do.
Yeah.
So I would need the answer to those questions. Do you want still the service of yard debris and miscellaneous as you got now
Well, and let me ask.
in your cost analysis?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So always hate when somebody answers a question with a question, but here I go.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the buckets of stuff we have, so we have household garbage, yard debris, you know, we outsource the beach pickup already, county does recycling. Donnie, would you see a company, are you familiar with, I mean, how would a company come to us and bid this? Would they just be interested in household garbage potentially and not yard debris? So we have to keep staffing and equipment for that, or what's your?
They would, of course, Sullivan's Island has both contracted services for garbage and yard debris.
Yeah.
But I don't know that their yard debris collection on Sullivan's Island would be adequate to our Palms.
Yeah.
And that's just being frank.
No, I would not agree with that. Yeah.
They don't get yard debris pickup as often as you all provide.
Actually, it's been suspended throughout this pandemic. It was suspended.
Yeah.
So those are questions I would need answered, of course. So based on those answers, that's where you could have your cost savings and or CDL savings with personnel, minimizing personnel.
Yeah. Well, and I guess Susan and Rusty, again, nobody's talked about this at this point. That's why we have it on the agenda. I guess to me, the starting point would be, let's start the analysis with same. So we're making sure we're comparing apples and apples. Susan or Rusty, what's your thinking around that?
So, well, I guess I have a couple of questions. Is this driven? I mean, this is one area of service that I think our residents have been really happy with. So I'm guessing this is more driven by potential cost savings that you want to look at. Is that correct?
I think it's more long-range planning.
Yeah. Susan, I think if you look at Donnie's budget, not a huge piece of life in the city. And right now we've got, the $3.5 million in phase 3 drainage sitting in his budget. So it's a little bit skewed from just day to day. But, if you look at Donnie's 10-year plan, there is coming a day where we've got to replace equipment, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And that equipment, as Donnie has told us, is pretty expensive. Well, that may be okay. But before we get to that point, Susan, I'd love to have this conversation, look at the data, look at the analysis. We may get to it may not save us a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
And it may. And then we've got a decision point to make based on everybody's comment around the quality of service that we get today. But, before we get to some of these big ticket capital purchases that are going to be needed at some point, I would love to just have this work behind us. So that's kind of where my head is, Susan.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Well, I'll just say two quick things. And one is, I guess, to make sure that we're taking into account the other infrastructure that we've invested in within Public Works in terms of, all the pieces that go into servicing the trucks and housing them on the island. And also, just I had noticed in the past that I think that maybe other municipalities may have more automated trucks than we do. So that might be something to take into account looking forward in all of this. I think they're obviously much more expensive, but there may be the expected cost savings that you might have with personnel. I'm not sure if that's a place where we would want to go, but if we're having this kind of conversation, that might be a piece that we look at the same time.
Yeah. Rusty?
Yeah, just a comment and a statement. I mean, I think this was discussed in our budget workshop. Obviously, we had some discussion there, and I guess that's where it originated. We started looking at all pieces, and I think we do owe it to what the outcome was of that last workshop, that we moved forward and look at the same like we were talking about there, Philip, the way that you brought it up. And, so I think we should at least move forward with looking at it that way, not knowing whether we save any money or not. One thing you can't put a price on is the team that we have in place. I'm telling you, they're outstanding. I mean, all of them, Donnie, Robert, and the entire crew. The level of service they provide and what they do for all of us is, it's just immeasurable, I think, in terms of the service. You just never see anything back up around here on our yards. It's a rare time that you see streets that are cluttered with debris. So that I appreciate. The other thing I want to mention too, and I don't know if it's happening to others on the call here, but 2 or 3 times during this meeting here today, I've had a frozen screen on my side. So I've probably missed part of the conversation, because it'll freeze for 10 or 15 seconds. So if you called on me before, Philip, and I didn't respond, I apologize.
Yeah, Rusty, I've got 3 to-do items for you that you missed, so that's good.
Okay. All right, that's it for me.
No, I appreciate that. And I guess, Donnie, kind of back to your original, go ahead, Donnie.
Same and same.
Say it again.
You're good, Donnie.
I mean, if you're looking at same service without the garbage, just a quick and dirty from me would be a garbage packer is $225,000. One savings of a CDL employee is roughly $100,000 a year with fringes. So, and I'm on a 15-year cycle. So 225 plus 15,000, right? Is 200 and what, 36,000 over 15 years. That's what you would be saving. You would still need the same, you would go down one truck. Right now I got 5 trucks, but with debris and 2 debris packers and the 1 debris miscellaneous, you'd still need the 5 trucks with the flatbeds. So you would go down one, you would be saving 1 truck.
Yeah.
That's just quick and dirty, just right off the top.
Yeah,
And that's it.
Oh.
Go ahead, Desiree.
Well, and I was just going to say that is some of the work, if it is the will of the committee that we look into, what that could look like and any potential cost savings or just the cost of having a different service delivery model, then we can certainly work on that and present some of that analysis to the committee next month or the following month, depending on, how easy it is for us to acquire that information. But we can certainly reach out to our counterparts in other municipalities and maybe get some, not only financial information, but also, their experience in terms of the level of service. Because I believe that they will, at the end of the day, it's going to be a conversation about, not only cost, but also the expectation of the community in terms of level of service.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and Donnie, I know there's, probably may not be a lot on the equipment side. I know we spend a fair amount on temp labor, but I want to look at the whole thing, to make sure we're looking at, personnel costs, whether it's our employees or not,
Right.
equipment costs. And I guess, so Donnie, kind of back to your original question, would you see us leaving the beach pickup as is, since we just signed that contract? So that's kind of off the table. That's a question.
If anything, I would see that your beach contract, the base of it be going up as opposed to staying the same. The more people you have, the more garbage you're gonna have on that beach, and the more frequent the under the contract right now, he's 3 days a week. That I can see that going to 4 or 5 days a week.
Mhm.
And in the heat of the action, we're at 5 days a week, Monday through Thursday through Monday. And I could see it going to 7 days a week operation for those 11 days as you get more and more crowds on this beach.
Yeah, I guess my question is more about, we already outsourced that, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, would we just leave that alone in this analysis?
As opposed to going in-house, because they have to run around the tides. So then you'd have to have an employee that is on midnight shifts and rotating shifts as the tide rotates. It's very, it would be, and then there'd be a little bit more supervision. Right now, if he don't have it, we can call him on it. But an employee, you're gonna have to supervise them. You can get the right one, but you can't guarantee the right one.
Yeah, and again, I'm not thinking about bringing that in-house. I'm thinking about if we go to a company that may have various arms of service delivery in their business model. It may be garbage, maybe yard debris, maybe beach, I don't know, dumpsters on the island. I mean, that's a whole nother issue I know we need to think through too. I guess my real question was around the beach contract that we have today. That seems to work well. It's already outsourced. I don't know that one of these big waste management companies are going to have interest in doing our beach pickup, probably.
I don't think any of those big companies have that specialized piece of
And
equipment.
that's my question. So
Yeah.
to me, let's take that one off the list from a to-do, because it's already outsourced. Susan?
Mhm.
But I was just going to point out that in our discussion with our contractor, he mentioned that he was moving forward with buying that very specialized piece of equipment. So and it didn't sound like that was very common. So for that reason, I would think, we would not look at that seriously.
Yeah, I would agree. And then Donnie, again, I don't know these big companies by any stretch what all they do. So the dumpsters that are on the island today are done by Republic?
Carolina.
The city has a contract with Carolina Waste
Carolina Waste, got it.
for every dumpster, including the condos, every commercial dumpster, the city compactor. That's all Carolina Waste.
Yeah, and I'm assuming if we go out to have a conversation with somebody around garbage and yard waste, dumpsters would be a part of that service model too, right? From one of these big companies.
Well, it could be. I would be one of those that would say, right now, the contract you have now, you do whatever you can do to save it because you're at less than half cost.
Yeah, on the dumpster specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the dumpsters all over the island, that's a city cost. Do I remember that right?
The dumpster collection is on the city. The user fee at the end of the year is on each individual entity. The bill comes to the city and then it's a pass through. We pay it, but Debbie gets it from each individual container.
That's just the user fee.
Yes.
Mhm.
Not the ongoing servicing or,
The service is about $8 per dumpster.
Mhm.
The going rate is much more than that.
gotcha.
The user fee at the end of the year is a much larger bill that is passed through and they pay that. The city doesn't pay that.
How long have we had that contract in place with the Carolina Waste?
Desiree can get when that contract was written, the last one, it was a renewal for a 5-year and it was at like $6 per dump. Now you try to do that individually, you're way up there.
Yeah.
When's the contract up for renewal? Do we know that?
It's automatic with,
Oh, it
they
is,
can
okay.
increase it a certain amount, but that's it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd
We
have to
want to
pull
keep
the
it as long as
contract.
we can get it because they're not making a dime on the haul part of it.
Right, got it.
Yeah, I'd have to pull the contract to see the effective date. I don't know that.
Yeah, that's all right. But Donnie, I mean, you raise a good point. I mean, is Carolina Waste, are they of size and a company that could
Oh, yeah.
bid on all this?
They have contracts with other municipalities that pick up household garbage. One in particular is Kiowa, and they actually walk into the individual home, roll the garbage can out and roll it back. But there's a cost associated with it.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I would hate to light that fuse. Okay. Yeah, Desiree, I think it's something we ought to take a look at and do some analysis on. We don't need it by next committee meeting because that's really going to be in like 2 weeks, essentially.
Yeah.
There's no urgency to it at all.
Okay.
I just think we put it on the agenda and just incrementally make some progress around it. Donnie, do you feel like you've got enough at this point? If we're going to try to bid apples and apples right now, leave the beach thing off. Recycling is obviously done by the county. So we're really talking dumpsters, yard debris, and household garbage.
Yes.
You feel like you have enough if we want to start with same and start doing some analysis?
Absolutely.
Okay. I appreciate that, Donnie. Susan or Rusty, any other questions on that particular topic?
Not for me, Philip.
Okay.
Nope.
Susan, you good? Okay.
I'm good.
Speaking of our next meeting, 8 a.m. Thursday, June 4th, if that's good with everybody, kind of back on our normal cycle, if you will. Does that work?
Works for
Thanks,
me.
Brad.
Okay.
I need to just double check that I don't have any conflicts with 8th grade graduation for my son.
Having that? I hear some of them are
Yeah.
kicking off graduation outside now.
I'm not sure what I need to go check on the plan. So
Okay.
I think it's probably gonna be virtual. So that may solve that issue.
Okay, got it. That's it. A motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nicole, did you need something? Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say you're off record at 1:49.
Very good. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Donnie, Rob,
you.
good work.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.